One more look at your traffic and weather from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center here on the early game. Got a couple of different accidents to report. One at Augusta Road and Oak Drive. Another one at Kaufman Road near Presley Street. Another one as well at Forest Drive near I-77. Broad River and St. Andrews and Two Notch at Millwood. Today, high of 88 with a chance for storms throughout the day. High tomorrow of 90 and high of 91 on Thursday. It's traffic and weather. What's on Road Traffic Center here on the early game. Nine o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you, creeping ever closer to the start of the college football season. 12 more days, man. 12 more days.
And it's getting real close. Now we're only, 4 days away from
Week zero.
Which,
yep. You sent out the picks yesterday.
Yeah, so in case anyone does not know, we at Gamecock Central 107.5, we come together and we do this thing called staff picks.
Yep.
So every week I am in charge of passing out or emailing all the games to pick them basically each week. And we are starting that early this week with week 0 as it's been voted on by all the people that participate in it. They want week 0, so I'm going to give it to them.
I feel like my strategy, because Colin did this previously a few years ago. My strategy since I started being included in this was really thinking about these. Like, okay, what do the numbers say? What do the experts say? I think I'm going to go with my gut this year. I'm just going to do it quick. I'm not going to put any thought to it, and I feel like that's the best solution to try and do this because my critical thinking on picking matchups has not worked out well for me.
Yeah, I mean, I do like a minute of research for each pick. I'll look at the spread. That's the main thing that tells me which way this is going to go. I look at the CBS Sports does a really good job of breaking down, like, okay, where the offense is ranked, where the defense is ranked, and just go based off of that. So,
yeah, I think I'm just going to go off gut feel this year.
Yeah.
I think I was towards the bottom last year, so it can't really get any worse.
And, just look at Terry's picks. I mean, he finished first somehow last year. I finished second, so, I mean, by a game. I'm still pissed about that. But
what did the winner get? Do we get a prize? A plaque? A certificate of something?
He got me here for an extra hour. So.
Oh, okay. That's how it worked out.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I see. We'll get into to some football stuff here in a second. Update though from Williamsport yesterday. Wow, what a game for South Carolina and Nevada up there. No hitter through 6 innings basically. Joe Giletti, the guy that hit the home run last week.
Yeah, the Grand Slam.
The Grand Slam last week in their 13-0 win was pitching a gym. Unfortunately, they do have a pitch limit when it comes to Little League, and he was not able to pitch the extra inning in the 7th. And unfortunately, in a 0-0 game, and they do the runner on second thing, which they did get that lead runner out in a very good situation where they kind of faked the throw to first and were able to catch the runner there in a bit of a pickle. But unfortunately, was it the first baser or the right fielder who the ball went under his glove? I think it was the right fielder. The ball went under his glove, and that was enough for Nevada to play to run and walk off with a victory.
So Joe Giglietti, future South Carolina Gamecock?
Maybe so.
I mean the kid plays the part. He can hit, he can throw. I mean, look, Paul Maneri, I don't know if you listen to 107.5 or not, but get on it, man. Get on it with this kid. What class would this kid be?
God, if he's
in middle school,
if he's 12 right now,
Paul won't even be here by the time.
That'll be probably not.
Probably not.
6 years from now, he'd be graduating in 2031 or 32.
Oh, my God.
For high school? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long way off.
Yeah, so we got about like 5-6 years here. So whoever's the next coach or whatever, you know? This kid seems pretty good.
Heck of a game. I mean, heck of a game yesterday, following along with it. And again, no hitter basically through regulation, at least. And then they unfortunately fall there in extra innings. Today, I believe, they'll play again at 3 o'clock. Yeah, they'll play 3 o'clock today against Hawaii. And is it 2 and done, or is this still pool play?
This is elimination.
Elimination game. Okay, so today.
So there's the winner's side of the bracket.
Yeah.
Which they were in, then they lost, and then it's like any standard, bracket.
Because they have to win 3 games in 3 days.
Yeah, I believe. Now the pressure's on. Now they got to go out here, and Hawaii's always been really good in the Little League World Series, from what I understand.
Oh yeah, no, they've won it plenty of times. Yeah. Like they're always towards the top there in the American side of the bracket.
Yeah, and they lost a really tough game the other day. I'm trying to remember who it was against, but either way, it was like Friday night, I think. So, point is, I mean, it's going to be tough for South Carolina now to get out of here with a potential championship. They're going to have to do it the hard way, but this team has done it before, and I think they could certainly do it again.
So we'll keep watching, wishing them the best of luck today. Is again bit of a backup against the wall situation, but again, just barely losing yesterday, and we'll see if they can keep those hopes alive. Coming up later on today, taking on Hawaii at 3 o'clock, and that game, of course, will be on ESPN. We got to kick things off, as we do each and every morning at 9 o'clock, with our Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It's time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick-Me-Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803-ALL-9s. We learned yesterday Williams-Brice Stadium is sold out its season ticket allotments for the first time ever. Does that surprise you that it's never happened before?
I think a little bit, because it's like, we always see South Carolina rave about the fact that each game is sold out. And you would think, like, the season ticket allotment would be sold out as well, but surprisingly not. And the cool part about it is that they were able to sell, I believe it's 5,000 more season tickets than last year. So they added to their allotment, and they were able to really do a good job of getting. And the hype around this program, if you don't think it's real, you see things like this, it's definitely real.
For one, I'm surprised that had never happened previously during the height of the Spur era, when you were winning 11 games 3 years in a row. I figured, at least right there in the middle of that, you would have had at least 1 year where you sold out your full allotment. But for whatever reason, this is the first time it's ever happened. But I think it does highlight what the expectations this year are. Right? You quite literally have your fans believing like they've never believed before, sniffing the college football playoff a year ago with the talent you have returning, quite literally 2 of the best at their respective positions in Dylan Stewart and Lenore Sellers coming back. Like, if something magical is going to happen, this seems like it would be the year that it's going to happen. Now, again, there's a lot of questions for this team, a lot of things we're trying to figure out, but, Beamer has the fans ready for this thing to take off.
Oh, yeah, and they sold out of 47,500 season tickets. And again, it's the first time they've ever done that with their ticket allotment, and almost 5,000 more total season tickets were sold then in 2024. So, that's really impressive, honestly. And we're 2 weeks out from the start of the season. So, that's the even crazier part, is that all of them are gone, and it's a really cool accomplishment for Carolina.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And again, there's your investment from the fan base. Like, they are showing you they're going to show up. That place is going to be packed to the gills. And again, for even the tickets that aren't out of the season ticket allotment, that place is going to be packed for SC State and for Vanderbilt, for Kentucky. All these games, you're going to have the crowd that you want, and they're going to be energized, going to be excited, and now you got to go out there and perform, and that's the part of it that we're obviously waiting to see. We have a lot of confidence in, but now it's like, okay, you've got your audience, you've got your belief, you've got your buy-in from your fan base. Now go out there and show us what you're capable of.
It's going to be fun to watch, man. I'm really looking forward to this season, just because we haven't seen it like this in a little while. Like, again, like this is stuff we have not seen from South Carolina. And this is always one of the most rowdy, intense environments in college football, in my opinion. And the fact that, I did not know this before yesterday, the fact that they had never sold out of their season tickets.
Again, it's surprising to learn, right?
Yeah, it's surprising for, again, a team that always sells out its games during the regular season. Like, that's the surprising part. But, again, that's what happens when you win, I guess, 9 games, what you need to beat Clemson, all this stuff. You can get all these people invested in your program.
Yesterday, we gave some hot takes. We reacted to some of the hot takes that you wrote about in your article on Gamecock Central. And, again, that was something that's very hyper-localized. You were taking the hot takes from people on the Insiders Forum, the people that really pay attention to this program. But it got me thinking yesterday, what are some perceptions of this team nationally that we feel like that they can truly prove wrong? Because, again, everybody talks about Sellers, I just talked about Stewart, but there's areas of this team that I feel like people talk about that might not necessarily end up being true. So I guess we're talking about cold takes takes that we expect to end up being very cold when this team does take the field in front of a sold-out allotment of season tickets coming up here in a couple weeks. Is there anything that stands out to you as potential cold take for this team?
I think just the fact that the defense, when we talk about like the defense taking steps back potentially in 2025, which I don't think that's really going to happen. I think the defense is going to be fine. But I think there's probably some takes out there. I don't think I got any on the Insiders Forum about this, but like that the defense is going to be miles worse compared to last year just because they lost so many guys. And quite frankly, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this defense was able to really replenish, go out there and fill the spots. And I mean, I even got some takes. I think Wes commented on had one of the takes being that the linebacker group for this year is going to be even better than last year's group, which is hard to believe.
Sure.
And that's a hot take right there, but I think it could definitely be possible, honestly.
Yeah, well, and let's think about last year. Did we think the linebacker room was going to be as great as it was? I mean, look, Debo Williams, who we had in here yesterday, Bam Martin-Scott, good, right? But we didn't know a ton about Demetrius Knight as far as playing at a Power 4 level. He looked fast on tape at Charlotte, but we didn't know how that was going to translate. And he played great, and I think he helped bring out the best in his teammates as well. And that linebacker room was one of the best things about this entire team.
Oh, totally. Now, what's your cold take?
So I had a couple here. I think one of them is this belief that Sellers has to do it all himself.
That's a good point.
And people talk a lot about the wide receiver room. And look, the wide receiver room wasn't like phenomenal a year ago. They were okay. Again, Josh Simon was your leading receiver at tight end, which I think, tells you that the room was just okay and not great or anything like that. But I look at pretty much all those guys coming back, right? An entire offseason spent together developing what we hope to be your main receiver in Nick Harbor, focusing on football the entire offseason. I have not like sky-high expectations like the person that expected 2,000-yard receivers yesterday when we talked about hot takes, which would be great, but I expect a really significant jump in numbers from this receiver room to where, again, Sellers is going to have hopefully several reliable targets to count on. And I just think that's something which I understand where people are drawing that conclusion. I just think it's something that we're not going to be worried about as much this year.
I think when push comes to shove, we might see I think when the game is on the line, we kind of see what we saw last year. Like, Lenoir's is more than capable of taking things into his own hands and making things happen and leading South Carolina to a win. Like, if you ever needed him to do something like that, we saw it last year. He's more than capable of doing it again this year. But you're right. He has more weapons this year. We'll see how the running game situation shakes out. That's going to be a big part of the ability to make it more of a dynamic offense as opposed to one-dimensional, just a passing offense. You have a good run game. That really will allow Sellers to really air it out, throw the ball around more consistently.
Another one is that the schedule is just too difficult, which, hey, it's a hard schedule. Nobody's denying that. It's backloaded, though.
Yeah.
Right? Those final 7 games are the one where you're facing all the teams that are ranked in the preseason. Not going to be easy, but what do we talk about? Carolina plays its best football towards the end of the season, so I like your chances of being able to navigate that. And again, you're not going to win all those games. You're going to lose a couple of them because that's just how tough the SEC is. But I still feel optimistic about your chances to be in that conversation of an 8-9 win team once again.
But in reality, is the schedule as difficult? And on paper, it's difficult. But are Oklahoma, Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M, like, are those teams really going to be as good as we think they could be? I mean, if not, that bodes well for South Carolina.
That's the grand question, and that's what we've spent all offseason speculating about, that we're finally going to get some answers coming up here in 11, 12 days.
So we'll see what happens.
Yes, we will. We'll take a look at some coaching tiers. Chris Fanini of The Athletic put out his coaching tiers for all FBS coaches just the other day. Where did Beamer fall, and what exactly does that mean for where the program is at here at South Carolina? And who are some coaches on this list that don't deserve the spots that they have? We'll discuss that coming up. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry along with you on your Tuesday here on The Game. Tyler Head here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialist. I tell you about it all the time, but I'll remind you once again, if you have an open crawl space under your home and recently experienced a storm, you need to make sure there's not standing water under there. Standing water in your crawl space can create a litany of issues like mold, mildew, can even invite pests like termites into your home as well, which of course you absolutely do not want. That moisture can also lead to wood rot and floor drills problems as well. And that's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists come in. You can go online to schedule an appointment today at cantyconfix.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate your foundation issues and get them fixed so you and your family can live without worry going forward. Again, go online to cantyconfix.com and let Canty Foundation Specialists come out and fix your crawl space and foundation issues. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. It's our Ed and Jack Feltry along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Reminder, today, 1 o'clock, Coach Beamer will speak for his usual Tuesday press conferences. We'll get some thoughts from scrimmage number 2. Again, we got a little bit of information that came out about yesterday, but we'll get into more of that with Beamer later on today and start maybe kind of turning our attention slowly to Virginia Tech coming up here in 12 days as we're almost there. One more press conference after this. Carolina Calls, by the way, returns on Thursday night. And, then we're off and running.
Yeah, it's this Thursday night, too, right?
This Thursday night. We'll have the preseason Carolina Calls. This one's the one to just recap everything in the offseason and, get everything set up. And then next week will be like, hey, Virginia Tech's on Sunday. What are we thinking? What are we looking out for? Like, that'll be your proper pregame Carolina Calls.
And I'm telling you, like, that's part of football season being ever closer. So looking forward to hopefully seeing everyone out there.
By the way, I heard Elijah and Preston talking. Apparently, Bill Belichick's not doing his call-in show in Chapel Hill. He's having Michael Lombardi, his GM, do it, which that's pretty weak. Like, come on, Bill. Part of being a college coach is doing call-in shows.
Tennessee got rid of their call-in show. Clemson doesn't have a call-in show anymore.
Well, we know why Clemson doesn't have a call-in show anymore.
Yeah.
After which I still think that was staged. You can't convince me otherwise.
You think Tyler from Spartanburg?
I think Tyler from Spartanburg was staged because that was the 23 season. Remember, things were looking a little rough there for Clemson. They were losing games they shouldn't have. Cade Klubnik was looking a little shaky, and people were really questioning Dabo's philosophy on things. And I felt like, because here's the thing, I didn't realize we were going down this rabbit hole, but I'll say it again. Working in radio as long as I have, especially when it comes to callers, if somebody is going off like that, quite frankly, disrespecting the person that is the feature part of the show, there's no way you let that call go for the 3-4 minutes that it went if you're not trying to set the coach up for something first, so he can remind people of everything that he's done, which is what Dabo Swinney did. Like, Tyler from Spartanburg, typically, once he really starts taking shots at Dabo, would have gotten cut off. All right, hey, thanks, Tyler. We'll take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Like, that's how those things kind of typically go, which raised my ears a little bit on it. Like, this looks suspicious. And then, it was a perfect setup for Dabo to tell people, I've done this, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that, and you should be thankful. Which again, it was all a little too convenient for me, and I will die on that hill.
Wow. Let's say you want some hot takes.
There's your hot take right there. It's a true take. I think Tyler from Spartanburg was very much staged.
We need to get the guy on here. We need to get.
Have we heard from him since?
No.
Don't you feel
where is he now?
I guess in Spartanburg. don't you feel like we would have known about him since then, and instead he's just kind of disappeared into the sea?
You would have thought somebody would have done a story on him. I mean, the guy's like Steve Bartman. We never hear from him again.
I think that was the producer, the host cousin or nephew or something like that. Like, hey,
oh God,
Dabo needs a platform to remind these folks of what he's accomplished. You want to call in and just hit these main points here? We'll let you run for 3-4 minutes. Like, again, I've worked in radio long enough. That did not look right the way that went down.
Look, if Tyler from Spartanburg happens to listen to 107.5, let's get you on, man. Let's get you on. I want to hear from you.
Yes, please. If Tyler from Spartanburg is listening, please call us and we'll work out a formal interview to get the whole story behind what happened there. But since we are talking about coaches, Chris Vannini of The Athletic put out his annual coaches tier list, which he's been doing for a couple years now, where he separates all the coaches in FBS into different tiers. And it's interesting to look. And he also has on here the jumps from what tier they were in last year to where they are as of right now. And since we're talking about Dabo, we'll go ahead and tell you, he and Kirby Smart are in the top tier, rightfully so. That's called multi-time champs. They're quite literally the only multi-time national championship coaches still left in college football. We'll get to more of that in a moment, but those guys sit on their own. You don't have to go super far down, though, to find Coach Beamer, as he sits in tier number 4, which is Rising Stars and Steady Hands. Now, for reference, a year ago, Coach Beamer sat in tier number 6, which was Show Me Seasons Ahead. So he skipped over up and down and went right to Rising Stars and Steady Hands, which I feel like that's fair. I feel like that's about where this program is right now. It's on the way up, and there's still a little bit more to prove, right, before you can believe that they are in, let's say, tier number 3, which is high level of consistency.
I have no problems with this because you look at, again, high level of consistency and established winners. No offense, but
you're not there yet.
Shane Beamer's not that yet.
Yeah. Again, you're 4 years into this, rebuild essentially, and you're on a good track, but you're not there yet.
Show me something more this year, like a college football playoff appearance, and I could put them in more consistency, right? And I have a few issues with some of the other names and categories. Most notably, I see Lance Leipold from Kansas is in the established winners now. Not discrediting the fact that he is a winner, but it all comes at D2, D3 type of schools. Like he's not won. Like you look at some of the schools he's won at: Wisconsin, Whitewater, Nebraska, Omaha, schools like that. And then you look at Buffalo and Kansas, not exactly the same level of success, I would say.
Yeah, and the Wisconsin Whitewater championships obviously speak for themselves there. But talking about the FBS level, he had good seasons at Buffalo that helped him get the Kansas job. And 2 years ago at Kansas, 9-4. I mean, by Kansas standards, that's might as well be a national championship. Last year took a dip. Jalen Daniels was hurt last year. That had something to do with it. I think he's probably in that same area as Beamer. Is like, hey, we think you're on the up and up, but we still need a little bit more to kind of put you in that more consistent type of category. Which I think that's a fair assessment. One that I really had a problem with is I'm gonna scroll back up here. When we talk about high-level consistency, Mark Stoops is in that level and was in that exact same level last year. Has Mark Stoops had good seasons at Kentucky? Sure, but it's not high-level consistency by any means. He's done enough to keep his head above water, but I wouldn't call that high level.
Also, I go back to established winners. Like, what is that? Like, established winners in terms of, like, winning, like, 10 games a year? Like, I feel like that falls more in line with, like, consistency, honestly. But to put, like, Kirk Cignetti, Kalen DeBoer, James Franklin, Brian Kelly, all these guys, I would probably group them in, like, high-level consistency because they're winning, 8, 9, 10 games a year.
Sure.
But what have they won? What has Kurt Cignetti won? What is Kalen DeBoer won? James Franklin, made the playoff. That's great.
Yeah, I think these guys are getting credit for their previous stops too. So Kalen DeBoer at Washington, Kurt Cignetti, James Madison, where they did win there, and obviously Kalen DeBoer took a Washington team to a national championship game. For their current stops, I do need to see more because to me, established winners does mean like, hey, I can expect you to be a 10-win team. And by today's standards, be in the playoff every single year. Cignetti did that obviously last year with Indiana, but Kalen DeBoer didn't. So again, I would probably have put Kalen DeBoer in high level consistency, maybe not quite established winners just yet.
And Lincoln Riley being on this list too. I mean, granted, I know he did good things at Oklahoma. Like he won a lot at OU.
Sure.
Never won the national championship though. But I will say, like at USC now, at Southern Cal. I mean, what has he done exactly?
No, nothing, and they're getting impatient out there.
Get a Heisman Trophy winner that he brought from Oklahoma. Like
this is a very critical year for him as well, and I would say, I would probably put him in high level consistency with a lot of that heavy lifting having been done when he was at Oklahoma. Well, reading this list though, it helped me notice something, and I went back and checked this because we don't have a lot of national championship winning head coaches anymore. What does this mean for where the sport's at right now, and what could it mean in years to come? I want to get into that coming up next. It is The Extra Point. It's our head and Jack Beltry along with you here on your Tuesday on the Game.
Everyone knows that AAA Heating and Air has the best HVAC replacement options in the Midlands with their guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for 12 months, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty. They're hard to beat when you need a new system, but did you know they also have great deals for repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're strapped for cash, AAA Heating and Air can still help. They'll get your repairs done with payment options for up to 12 months and no credit check required. So if you're the homeowner, all you need is a valid bank account. That's it. That's all you need. So don't wait. Call AAA Heating and Air today and get your comfort back on track. AAA Heating and Air. Comfort you can trust.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. Another reminder, in fact, there's just one spot left for the game Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Craig Showrooms, formerly the Nest and the Vista. This Friday, we're going to be at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. hanging out all day. Tea time's at 9. Registration begins at 7:30. Of course, going to have onion sausages for breakfast, mimosa bar provided by Saki's Wine and Spirits, and Firehouse Subs for lunch. We'll have prizes to give away, and the golf gun makes its return. And all proceeds for this are going to be going to Camp Discovery. $400 for a team. If you want to sign up for that last spot, give Charlie a call at 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up. Looking at this list again, Chris Vignini of The Athletic puts out his annual coaching tiers ranking. And again, Coach Beamer has moved up a couple tiers and now finds himself in tier number 4 of Rising Stars and Steady Hands. And Jack, you mentioned a moment ago that if Coach Beamer were able to get this team in the playoffs, then I think you definitely skyrocket up towards that high level consistency type category. And I think to me, if you're winning 8 to 9 games this year, even if you do miss the playoff, I think you still have a chance to kind of establish yourself as a high level type of program, consistently winning, because that would be 4 out of 5 years where you pretty much achieved just as much, if not more, than people expect out of you. 2023 being the obvious anomaly there with missing a bowl game. But if you can win back-to-back years of 9 games this year, then I think you definitely consider yourself to be a high-level, consistent type of program at that point.
Absolutely. That would probably be the next step for Beamer here to getting to that point. And again, maybe if he makes the playoff, maybe he gets into that established winner. Probably not, but I would say high-level consistency is definitely on the table when we talk about a list like this next year.
I think it's interesting as well, kind of reading over this list. Again, you have Category 1 or Tier 1, which is multi-time champs. That only encompasses both Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney, because guess what? They've both won multiple national championships. They're the only ones to do that. Ryan Day added his name to the list of national championship head coaches with his victory, back in January. That's it. We have 3 coaches with national championships currently coaching in college football right now. Obviously, Mack Brown was in college football a year ago before stepping away from North Carolina. Of course, Jim Harbaugh left Michigan for the NFL after their national championship now 2 seasons ago. And I went back and looked. There were 5 different coaches a decade ago that had national championship claims during that period of time in 2015. 6 different coaches. Saban, Meyer, Miles, Stoops, Fisher, and of course Steve Spurrier, and that was the last season he was here before stepping away. So you had twice the amount of coaches with national championships a decade ago. How many coaches do we think are going to have national championships when we enter the 2035 season?
I would say new coaches, right?
Just in 2035, what coaches will go into that year having national championships under their belt?
I think Marcus Freeman gets one at Notre Dame between now and then. I could see that. One popular name we always talk about, is he going to get a national championship? Dan Lanning. I would be shocked if Oregon didn't win a national championship with him. But again, we've seen them go to the top and lose. Sark is another guy, Steve Sarkisian. Those are probably the main 3, I would say, are going to win a national championship. Honestly, here's a little bit of a hot take. Wouldn't surprise me if Alabama won this year. Really wouldn't surprise me if Kalen DeBoer moves into this list going into next year.
Now, if Kalen DeBoer is still at Alabama a decade from now, he has to win a national championship, right? There is no way they let him exist for a decade without winning one.
We're talking about making the playoff consistently, winning titles. I mean, that's what he came to Alabama expected to do.
I think it's fair. So I definitely think Sark could very well get his this year. In fact, I think Dan Lanning's eventually going to win one here in the next couple of years. Oregon continues to get better and better. I don't know if I'd give a guarantee, but I could see Marcus Freeman maybe winning one. Maybe James Franklin. This year seems as good a year as any.
This is probably his best year.
So I'd say anywhere between 2 and 3 new coaches winning it in the next handful of years. Here's the better question. Out of the 3 coaches that currently have a national championship, how many of them are still coaching in 2035?
Well, now you're talking about putting age into the question here.
Yep.
I would say all by 2035. I don't think Kirby's going to be coaching by then.
You don't? Okay.
I don't. I mean, how old is he? In his 50s?
Kirby is.
I mean, all these guys are Ryan Day's pretty young, right?
Kirby will be 50 in December.
So he's in his 40s. Okay,
Yeah, so he's still in his 40s.
Never mind. Kirby. All three are going to be coaching by then.
He took over Georgia in his late 30s. For reference, Dabo is 55. Believe it or not, Ryan Day's only 46.
Yeah, I just looked at that. I mean, these guys are relatively young, and Dabo's been at Clemson since like the mid 2000s. So
now here's something to remember. A lot of coaches have expressed their frustration with the way the sport is right now.
Yeah.
We've obviously seen Nick Saban literally retire because he's like, hey, I can't do this anymore. I don't know if coaches will have the same longevity to say, you know what, I want to coach until I'm 70 or 71. You know what I mean? Like, and especially, like, here's the thing. Kirby Smart can stay at Georgia as long as he wants. As long as he wants to coach, he'll be at Georgia. Like, I have no doubt about that.
Him and Dabo have nothing more to prove. That's the thing. So they could literally retire today, and they're Hall of Fame coaches.
Sure.
Like, they have,
but they're competitors, and they want to keep going.
But they want to keep going. Now, Ryan Day, on the other hand, he won a national championship.
Yes.
I'll give him that. He's still got a little bit more to prove, though, in my opinion. Can he do it consistently, number one, and make Ohio State a real threat every single year? The other thing is, when's the last time you beat Michigan?
Yeah,
that's a big deal in the state of Ohio.
People were ready to run them out of town after the Michigan loss last year, a month before they won the national championship. That's the standard you're held to as the Ohio State head coach, and he desperately needs to beat Michigan this year to get people to finally shut up about that.
Look at the way we view Jim Harbaugh now.
Sure.
It's very relevant now with the whole Michigan thing. With all that coming out just recently, but with Michigan, for the longest time, Jim Harbaugh couldn't beat Ohio State. Every single year. Felt like Michigan was going to do it, and then just never happened. Would we view Jim Harbaugh completely differently if he didn't win a national championship?
I still think he'd be considered a really great head coach. That'd just be kind of one thing that eluded him, like the Super Bowl has up to this point. But I think Harbaugh established building programs better than Ryan. Like Ryan Day was handed the keys to a Ferrari, and it's like, hey, just don't crash it. And he hasn't. So I think that's a little bit different. But I could see Day still being around 10 years from now. I could see Kirby still being around 10 years from now. Dabo, I don't know. And look, Dabo's more than maybe any coach currently expressed his frustration with where college football's at. I don't know if he's still doing this 10 years from now.
I mean, he's 55. He'd be in his mid-60s. I mean...
And again, he's accomplished.
But he's got all the energy out there.
He does. He does.
The thing.
I mean, I could definitely see a situation where, because like he's as frustrated as people may have gotten in the past couple of years, then he's never gonna want to leave Clemson, right? There'd be no reason for him to leave Clemson. He's got it made there, made a ton of money. They'll build a statue for him one day. I could see him transitioning into like a office type of role where he's still involved, but he's not coaching. You know what I mean?
I could see that. I will ask real quick. We mentioned a few coaches that we think are going to win national championships by 2035 from Tier 2.
Yep.
Do you see any from Tier 3 or 4? Because I personally, I don't.
Let me see here. Let me look back at my list.
Like, I mean, I don't really see. I think a lot of these coaches will get to the playoff.
Sure, I think a good majority of them will make the playoff.
Winning a title, I mean, unless they go to a different school, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, look, I like Kenny Dillingham a lot. I don't know if Arizona State's ever going to have the ability to get that far. Yeah, I don't see anybody that jumps out of my list, out of the page like, yeah, this guy definitely will win one in the next decade. So I would venture to say no. I think you're going to find all of your national champions, unless there's a coordinator we're not even thinking about that's going to get hired and take off in the next handful of years. I think those guys are all in your Tier 1 and Tier 2 right now.
Again, this is why we talk about there's only going to be so many teams competing for national championships every year.
Yeah, so there's your tier list from Chris Finney of The Athletic. Major League Baseball is maybe going to be shifting things around here in a couple years. Rob Manfred spoke about this the other day. We'll talk about that coming up next as we wrap up hour number 1 of the Extra Point on your Tuesday here on The Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Felcher wrapping up hour number 1 here on your Tuesday on the Game. Again, if you're listening out, if you want to listen out in Charleston on the Game Network, tune into WIWF 96.9 HD3, which you just go to 96.9, hit your radio, and touch the little HD button and go to HD3, and you'll be able to listen to us out there. On Sunday night, we had the Little League Classic out in Williamsport, where, again, Irmo is currently playing right now, as they'll play again today at 3 o'clock, taking on Hawaii, between the Mariners and the Mets. And Commissioner Rob Manfred joined the ESPN booth for a little while during the game, talking about a number of things happening around the league news-wise and looking at the future. And one hot-button topic was the conversation around expansion and geographical realignment. And here is what Manfred had to say.
In my mind, I think if we expand, it provides us with an opportunity to geographically realign. I think we could save a lot of wear and tear on our players in terms of travel. And I think our postseason format would be even more appealing for, entities like ESPN, because you'd be playing up out of the East, out of the West, and that 10 o'clock time slot where we, sometimes get Boston, Anaheim, would be 2 West Coast teams, and that 10 o'clock slot that's a problem for us sometimes becomes a real opportunity for our West Coast audience. So I think, I think the owners realize that there's demand for Major League Baseball in a lot of great cities, and that we have an opportunity to do something good around that expansion process.
So with expansion, the hot-button cities being named are Nashville, Portland/Salt Lake City, somewhere out on the West Coast to balance it out, which does seem like it's going to be happening here in the next handful of years. But I think what has really got people talking is the thought of realignment, getting rid of the divisions we've had established for well over a couple decades now, and maybe kind of going to an NFL type of model where you have 8 individual divisions with 4 teams each. If you had 32 teams.
I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world, honestly. I think, here's the thing. There would be no more American League or National League. That would be...
It'd just be Major League Baseball.
It'd be Major League Baseball by that point, which, honestly, there's no more... There's a DH in the NL now.
It's kind of what it is now anyway.
So it's like there's no really stark difference other than the fact of this is an NL team, this is an AL team. I think this is something that would take a lot for people to get used to, especially like baseball purists. Like, it would even take a lot for myself to get used to it, but I think it works from the standpoint of what Manfred said. You could even break it up like how the NHL does it with the larger divisions and the East and the West Conference. I think what you do is you have all the West Coast teams kind of grouped together in one division, let's say. Then you have the Midwest teams as well as like the Texas and the Colorados of the world.
Sure.
I think you put those teams together. You have the East Coast teams like the Yankees, the Phillies, the Mets, like Orioles, like Nationals, all those teams together. And then you kind of group together the Braves, the other teams that are kind of down south a little bit.
So I'm looking at this is from the New York Post, a potential theory of how this would look, where you'd have, like, to say for the Braves, for instance, will be in a 4-team division with the Rays, the Marlins, and then the theoretical team that would be in Nashville. For your Yankees, they would be in a division with the Red Sox, with the Mets, and with the Phillies, because, again, all those teams are close together. You'd have Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Washington in one. You'd have the Twins, the Brewers, the Tigers, and the Blue Jays in one. Like, again, teams relatively close together. The farthest, gap you'd have between teams would be, the Diamondbacks and the Mariners, theoretically, would be in one division here, but still relatively close. And again, for travel and wear and tear, and all those things that Rob Manfred said, I see where they're coming from with this.
No, definitely.
And I definitely see it happening, by the way.
I think the fact that it's getting talked about means it's going to happen. Now, I don't think it happens until you add the new
right,
team.
because then you have the balance of being able to split it this way.
Like, you have to, first off, you have to figure out what you're doing with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have a stadium, right? Like, a permanent home, I should say.
Sure.
Tropicana Field, the roof is still torn off from what I see. They're playing at Steinbrenner Field, which is for all intents and purposes a single A stadium.
Yes.
For a spring training site. So you're gonna have to figure that out. If they can get the stadium in Tampa, that'd be great for them. But obviously they could always relocate. Portland, Utah, one of those cities. I think both of them honestly get an MLB team, and then you got the A's moving to Vegas. So I don't think this happens probably until the end of the decade at earliest. But it's something that, like, Rob Manfred has clearly been thinking about for a while.
Yeah, and to me, it's kind of one of those things, like, again, you're going to have the initial blowback when it happens, but I think it's something, because, again, the divisions have changed plenty of times over the years. You know what I mean? I feel like it's something that we'd probably all get used to probably pretty quickly at the end of the day. Now, yeah, it'd be weird not calling NL and AL.
Yeah.
But, like, it's one of those things that, like, I don't think it's as crazy of a concept as maybe some people are making it out to be.
No, and if you're still playing all 30 teams throughout the season like you are now, then it's really not that much different other than, oh, hey, you're playing the Mets 4 times in series each year.
So that's potentially the future of Major League Baseball. We'll keep an eye on that as the years go by. That'll do it for the Extra Point. Coming up next, it is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. Wes Mitchell sitting down with kicker/punter Mason Love. That's coming up next here on your Tuesday on the Game. It's all right here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. Football for real, the games that count at least, are right around the corner, and that includes the NFL. And if you're playing fantasy football this year, you need to get Twin Peaks for your party where you can draft like a pro. Because now through September 4th, you can reserve your fantasy football draft party at participating Twin Peaks locations and score big, including a draft kick loader with everything that you need, a $50 kickback card with the commissioner, and $5 kickback cards for every league guest. Plus, you can sip on local specials and enter for a shot at $1,000 in cash thanks to Molson Coors. Don't settle for basic. Draft at the Lodge. You can book now at twinpeaksrestaurant.com/fantasy draft to book your fantasy draft party today. And again, hang out at whatever Twin Peaks location suits you for all the great football content coming up here over the next couple months with TV as far as the eye can see, tons of delicious food, and of course, those 29-degree draft beers with our friends at Twin Peaks.
All right, welcome back in another special episode of the Garnet Trust Hour on the Game. Very excited to be joined by our special guest today, South Carolina redshirt freshman, punter / kicker specialist, do everything guy, Mason Love, going into his second year here in Columbia after joining the program as a high school recruit last year. Mason, I know you guys got a lot going on right now, man, so welcome in, and I appreciate you taking the time today.
Yes, sir, no problem. Excited to be here.
So let's start right there, man. You guys are in the middle of preseason camp. You're kind of like down into like the middle grind of it, where I guess you're not quite on the let's talk about Virginia Tech stage yet. So just tell us, first of all, how do you feel camp has gone, and what is just a day in the life like right now? Like, I know it's a grind. Kind of how long are the days? What all are you guys sort of into right now, man?
Yeah, so it's been really good so far. Like, all the specialists, all the snappers, kickers, holders, like, we all been having a lot of fun just going out there and kicking, and we all been doing a good job, and so it's been exciting. And then as far as like day in the life, it's pretty much all day. So usually I'm waking up around like 5:15, getting to the facility around 6, getting rolled out, like stretching, trying to get my body right for the day. Then we have a couple meetings. And practice is usually starts around 9. Sometimes it changes later or earlier. Like an hour and a half practices. And then the good thing is we have a little break around 2-3 hours, and then come back, and so more meetings. And then I think we have 2 meetings in the afternoon, then dinner, and then one more meeting after the dinner. And then usually we're all done by no later than 9:15.
Now, 5:15 wake-up call, is that something that you were already used to? Like, I know some people are morning people, some people aren't. Was that something you were kind of used to, or something that was a transition for you when you got here?
Yeah, it's definitely not a morning person before this, but just waking up and making a routine has really been important for me because, waking up and then getting my body right is something that last year I didn't really do, and I could tell that I wasn't the most flexible or my mobility wasn't the best. So really making sure this year, just waking up and just trying to get my body loose and ready for camp it's definitely helped a lot with everything.
Yeah, I got to imagine, man, for a kicker, it's definitely going to be different motions than maybe like a running back or something, but equally important I would imagine, that just mobility, especially, I know you're competing for multiple jobs. If you end up winning multiple jobs, like kind of maybe trying to find a way to minimize the wear and tear to make sure you're recovering quickly and stuff like that. Have you been doing like yoga and some different stuff like that this off season too? Like what has the process been, and how just apparent or obvious has it been to you that it's kind of helped a little bit?
Oh, it's helped out a lot. Like last year, I wake up and just kind of roll into meetings all kind of like tight and not really loose, and so definitely I could see how it affected me during practice. Like I'd get tired easier and quicker, but this year it's been good because working on kicking, holding, kickoff, and punt. It's been really it's been a lot on my body, but just making sure that my body is loose and it's the most fresh every day. It's definitely helped out a lot. And so far, I haven't really felt that my legs have gotten too tired, but just gotta keep that routine.
Mason, let's go back in time real quick. Your decision to commit to South Carolina in the first place. I know Pete Limbo was a special teams coordinator back then. Obviously, kind of a well-known guy in that space. He got the head coach opportunity there at Buffalo. But what do you remember just about that process, man? And what can you tell us just about the decision, like the reasons, the factors that you chose South Carolina in the first place?
Yeah, like my senior year and junior year, like just watching special teams at South Carolina there were always something special about it. And whether that be Fakes or Kai or Mitch or Alex, like those guys they were good. And I could tell that like the coaching staff and all the players, like they bought into it. And so really that was a big reason why. And so also playing in the SEC in the South where it's not too hot, not too cold, compared to Kansas City is definitely a big reason why I committed here.
So South Carolina has kind of built a reputation, I guess, in the special teams world from what you're saying?
Yes, sir. Yeah, they definitely at the top.
And so then, obviously, Limbo gets the head job, like I said, at Buffalo. But then here comes Joe DeCamillis, a guy that's got countless, decades, I think, in the NFL, has coached a bunch of different guys at that level, has been at the pinnacle, really, in terms of special teams coordinators. What has it been like for you the last year or so to learn under a guy who has worked with so many NFL guys?
Yeah, it's been game changing. Just coming in and not really. Definitely I could kick, but it wasn't really the mental side and all the warm up stuff and drill work that we do that Jody's brought has helped me a lot. And so definitely within the first couple months, it was my punts were farther, better hang time. My field goals were straighter and higher. So definitely all the experience he has with players like Matt Gage, Johnny Hecker. Just all the guys he coached in the league, and is definitely really helpful and has a lot of experience.
Also, you kind of alluded to it, the reputation of being aggressive on special teams, the fake punts, fake field goals, 2-point conversions, stuff like that. I had heard when Limbo evaluated you that even just making sure, all right, this guy's got some athleticism about him, he can throw the football a little bit. Was that, were you told that was kind of part of the evaluation process with you? And is it true that they had you maybe throw a football a little bit in front of them just to make sure you had a little bit of that Kai Kroger in you?
Yeah, there was definitely towards the end of my workout when he came out to my high school, he just wanted to watch me play catch with some of the guys that were there. So I was throwing around with our snapper, and my brother was there, and so we were just having fun with it. So it wasn't really, I want you to throw a go route. It was just go have fun and go throw the ball. So definitely, yeah, it was fun.
And I know, and I'm sure they've told you, hey, we don't want you to try to be Kai Kroger. That guy, probably the best punter to ever come through this program. So I'm sure part of the message has been, hey, go be Mason Love. Don't be Kai Kroger. But following his footsteps, does it, is there a little bit of excitement too, just knowing you had a chance to just kind of view the pedigree and watch the work ethic of a guy who was so successful and now is trying to make it in the league himself?
Yeah, definitely. He taught me so much stuff, and coming in graduating early, he didn't think anything didn't treat me any different than some of the other guys. And so he taught me so much stuff about how to, not only on the field, but how to deal with, when there's pressure on you, when things are going good, when things are not looking good. So how to deal with stuff off the field and how to take care of my body right, how to prepare and warm up. And yeah, so he's helped me so much, and definitely really thankful for him.
You always hear when it comes to kickers, the mental aspect is 90% of the battle, maybe more. Yeah. I would imagine if you have a scholarship to play at the SEC level, you can kick. So the real big step is doing it in front of 80,000 people, doing it with a game on the line, stuff like that. That's something you can't really necessarily prepare for, but I'm sure you do everything you can to prepare for that. What has that aspect been like in camp so far? I know Coach Beamer has told us, hey, we're trying to put these kickers and punters and specialists in as many pressure situations as possible. How do you kind of mentally prepare yourself for, doing it in front of the thousands of fans, doing it on TV and all that stuff, man?
Yeah, so coming in the camp, he told us, we're going to make you uncomfortable. We're going to put you in front of the team, in front of, just put you in situations where, so in game, it's not the first time that you've done that. And so what I've worked on is in the off season was just trying to make sure that, when I'm in those situations, it's not the first time. And so what I'll do is I'll wear headphones. And so when I'm kicking, I'll just blast music, or I'll go onto YouTube and just play crowd noise at full blast in my headphones, and to somewhat get used to fans yelling and just all that stuff.
Now, have they put y'all in the classic, all right, end of practice, if you make this field goal, we don't have to run. If you miss, the whole team has to go do gassers or something, so everybody's staring at you as you kick it?
Yeah, he's done a lot of that situation, and so all of our specialists, kickers, punters, and snappers, we've all been doing a good job of making sure that's not too overwhelming, and that the pressure side doesn't affect us as much as it should. And so we've all been doing a good job, and kind of what we've all been thinking of is just go have fun. You know, don't think about it too much. Like, you know, all the guys have our back, and so we always been having fun. So.
Yeah, along the same lines, Mason, what can you maybe tell us about the camaraderie in that room? Because you guys are all competing against each other, but also it's like, all right, a lot of you are competing at the kicker job, but also the holder position. So, you know, you may not be the kicker, but you might be the holder. If you don't win one job, you might win the other. So you guys are possibly going to be on the field with each other anyway. Has the group been able to gel and kind of just, like you talked about, have fun with it while also, when the whistle is blown, kind of competing against each other as well?
Yeah, we've been doing a good job of, you know, we're all holding for each other. We're all kicking with different holders, and so we've all been adapting really good. And so there's not one person who's like, oh, I'm gonna mess up this hold so I get the job, and I'm gonna, you know, stuff like that. We've all been doing a good job of, you know, doing the best thing that we can do for each other to help each other succeed. And so when he looks good, I look good. When I look good, he looks good at like holding or kicking or whatever it is.
Now, I know when you were like recruited, at least on the profiles and stuff like that on the internet, you were always listed as a punter, but I know you were still kicking in high school too, from what I understand. Did you always kind of see yourself as a combo guy coming in as a punter / kicker? Was that something that kind of materialized once you got here? Have you always done both? I guess, what can you maybe tell us, just your background with both and your comfort level and your development, both punting and kicking?
Yeah, so I've been kicking since 5th grade, and so I've been kicking and punting. You know, every year of my career, I've always been doing both, and so they asked me, like, you know, what do you like to do best, or like, what do you like to do more? And it's a hard question just because I've been doing it every year, and so you know, I pride myself of being able to do both at an elite level, and so, but it's really whatever they want me to do, I'll do it and as my best, and you know, it'll be good.
No doubt. All right, guys, we got to take one quick break here, but he is Mason Love. He's going to hang out with us on the other side. You're listening to the Garnet Trust Hour, and you're listening to The Game, and we'll be right back.
If you are looking for a reliable local roofing company to help your home or business with your roofing needs, check out our friends at Classic Roofing. Joe Reeder, Max Sawyer, our guys, friends of the program here. They can help you take good care of your roof. That can be challenging, but you don't have to do it alone. They have years of expertise under their hats. Their local company, again, their families live right here in the Midlands, and the guys at Classic Roofing are GAF certified roofers. Only about 7% of roofers nationwide even have that certification. They can do inspections, installations, replacements, and repairs on your roof. You can visualize your new roof and what it would look like at classicroofingsc.com. You can check out their reviews and get a free estimate there. classicroofingsc.com, or give them a call, 803-590-7870. That's the reliable roofers over at Classic Roofing.
All right, welcome back in. This is the Garnet Trust Hour. As always, brought to you by our friends at Krantz Cooling and Heating. Check them out for all your HVAC needs. Again, joined here by Mason Love, South Carolina redshirt freshman. Mason, we've been talking about on the field. Let's go off the field just a little bit. Let the fans get a little idea of who you are off the field as a person. What is Mason Love doing in his free time? If, you're not working out, you're not studying, you're not doing football stuff, what are kind of your hobbies? What are the things you do to kind of just get your mind off the game a little bit, man?
Yeah, definitely. When we're doing football stuff, I like to, think about football. But when it's off the field, it's important to, not make sure you're not like all focused on football. And so having a life outside of football is important. And so just playing video games with anyone on the team, like specialists, linebackers, quarterbacks. That's something that we do a lot, and it's good at taking our minds off what happened during practice or throughout the day. And then besides that, I like to just be outside, fish, just pretty much do anything that relaxes and calms my mind.
Lots of gamers on the team, it seems like, from when we do these interviews. I know there's a few games that are kind of, it seems like everybody plays. Which ones are you on in terms of video games?
Yeah, mainly it's Fortnite. Definitely been playing that for a long time, and so it's just a lot of fun with the guys.
So Fortnite is still going strong?
Yes, sir.
What about CFB? Are you playing the football game or not really?
I've played it a couple times, but I'm not very good at it, so it's hard to play it a lot when things aren't going good.
Did they do you right on the rating on there? Did they get you in the game? How did they do?
I actually don't know what I'm rated at. I think it's.
You didn't even look?
I looked when it first came out, but I haven't really paid attention to it too much.
I got you. Did you play any other sports growing up, or was it always mainly football?
Yeah, so I played baseball for, I think, 6 years growing up, and then I did swim during the summers. I did wrestling freshman and sophomore year. I did gymnastics for a couple months. I think that's it. Yeah, those four.
A little bit of everything then.
Yeah.
Is there a hidden, I don't know, hidden talent, hidden hobby, hidden, like, just kind of, what do you do that everybody would be like, oh, I never knew that about Mason?
I would say if I get on a trampoline, I can do a couple tricks. And I can do a couple tricks on the ground that I think when I do them, most people wouldn't expect me to be able to.
Yeah.
And so that's always a fun thing to show them what I can do.
What are we talking about? Like a standing backflip, or what are we doing?
Yeah, standing backflip, a couple a round off backflip, just a couple things that impress people enough to show off. So.
All right, fake punt. You score a touchdown. Williams-Brice is going nuts. What are the chances we can get you to commit to a standing backflip in the end zone?
I think that would get a flag, but if the refs say that, go for it, I'll try it. But
yeah, I was going to say, probably not the best idea. They might not be calling any more fakes for you if you do that, but you would definitely go viral, I feel like, if you were to do that. Bust that out, man. Let's see what else off the field. Favorite food? Is there like a go-to for you? If you could have, like, if you had one meal and like final meal, here's what I want on the plate, where are you going with, man?
Probably going with 20 or 30 California rolls. I love sushi, and I think that I could eat that every day for a long time without getting tired of it.
Have you found some sushi spots in Columbia that you frequent a lot? Do you like spread it around, or have you kind of found your favorite?
I haven't really tried any sushi places in Columbia. There's a wing place that me and other kickers like to go to, U.S. Wings and Deli. So those are, I love that place. It's very good.
That's the go-to. You got to travel with the team last year, right? Was that for? I know you were in Oklahoma. Did you travel all the games, or
yes, sir. Yeah.
all of? Okay. Did you know they were doing that Ain't No Love in Oklahoma? I guess meme or video of you on social media when they did that?
I did not. I was not expecting that, and they caught me at a time where I didn't know that they were filming, and that was just me on the sideline.
Yeah, it caught you off guard. But in a serious note, how was that just to go ahead and get that experience of, hey, this is what travel logistically is even like. This is what it's like being on the road. You got to experience some of those crowds and just a different environment than Williams-Brice. And I got to imagine, at least from a mental standpoint, that could be a little bit beneficial going into this year when you're going to, obviously probably play a much bigger role, man.
Yeah, definitely traveling was, first it was a dream come true just because, we got to go places like Oklahoma, Alabama, Kentucky. So all those places were really fun to just be in and experience those. But it also was really helpful just as a scheduling and routine standpoint. I was able to really figure out like when I can stretch, when I need to be loose, and what the away games are, what the crowds are like, all that stuff. And so it was definitely really beneficial.
Yeah, man, speaking of things that are beneficial, this is a Garnet Trust interview, and I know you're coming into college life in a time when things have changed a ton over the last few years, 3-4 years. What has it meant to kind of be involved with some of the NIL stuff where you guys have been able to like go do events and signings and just be around the fans a little bit more, kind of be ingrained in the community a little bit? Like how do you feel about those opportunities, and then also just the opportunities that like Garnet Trust and the Gamecock Club have given to student athletes like yourself, man?
Yeah, I think it's definitely very beneficial for every student athlete that can make money and all those opportunities. So I definitely think it's good, and all that stuff is very good.
What has it been like to run out at Williams-Brice Stadium? 2001 entrance, and then sandstorm hits right before the game. Just experiencing that last year for the first time on the sideline. How did that, in terms of like meeting your expectations, go?
It was crazy. I think it was really just a dream come true. Like, once again, I never came out for a game day visit when I was committed or getting recruited. And so the first time I ran out to 2001 was the spring game. And the lower bowl was filled out, but even the top part weren't. So even that was really loud. And so experience it in game was crazy, and there's nothing like it at all.
So, Coach Joe D has told us, like, hey, the guys are competing for all these different spots, but if Mason wins 3 spots, then we're going to trot him out there for 3 spots. And, if it's 2, we'll trot him out there for 2. How do you feel about the possibility, and I know it's coach's decision, I'm not trying to put you in like a weird spot. I'm just talking about if you were the guy at place kicker, punter, and kickoffs, do you feel like you'd be able to kind of keep your leg from getting tired throughout the year? And are there some things you can maybe do training-wise just to keep yourself ready if that opportunity did kind of present itself?
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of communication. Like, if I don't tell them that my leg is, it's feeling tired, and they keep practicing me like it's fine, then that's when problems come up. And so just communicating really well with them and making sure that I'm making sure my body is right. And, if there's anything that comes up where, oh, my hip is bothering me, that I need to go do the things I need to do to make sure that it feels good. And, it's really just all preparation and making sure that my routine is good and covers, like, I get all the parts of my body that I'm going to be using during kickoff and punt, field goal, and holding and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that kind of brings up an interesting point, man. Obviously, I know in a given practice, you guys have, like, the actual on-field, like, hey, we're going to work on kickoffs, and the full 11-on-11 are out there, and I know you guys are kind of kicking or punting on the side. What is the balance for somebody who's, like, just never been out there for full practice? Like, what's the balance on, hey, I want to kick, I don't know, 50 balls today, 100. I have no idea what the numbers would be. Like, how do you guys balance, like, making sure you are taking advantage of that time that you're out there and maybe getting some work on the side when the team's doing other drills versus just, I mean, I imagine there's kind of a point where you're just going to tire yourself out. Like, what is the balance for you guys on that?
Yeah, so usually throughout the week we'll schedule it beforehand, so nothing's a surprise. And so what we do is, we're not kicking field goal, punt, and kickoff on the same day. We split it up, and so it's a lot of, I kind of know what my number is for warm-ups and full kicks, and so we like to just go through, and when it gets to a point where I'm kicking and it's, I'm getting tired, that like we both know that I gotta save my leg, and we've been doing a good job of pretty much everyone has been doing a good job of making sure that we're not over kicking. We get enough warm up time before practice, and making sure after practice that we take care of our bodies.
Mason, like we said off top, man, I know you guys got a lot going on. I know you got some more stuff on your schedule coming up here pretty soon. So final thing before we let you get out of here, just what is the excitement level like as we count down until this season? I know lots of just buzz around the program right now, but for you personally, how much are you looking forward to running out there in an NFL stadium against Virginia Tech here in a few weeks, man?
Definitely very excited just to show the fans and the country what I can do, and just the words can't describe it, and so I'm just ready.
All right, he is Mason Love. Again, we're going to let him get back to work. But, Mason, appreciate you joining us. Good luck this season, man. We'll all be wishing you well, and let's do this again sometime, man. But, again, appreciate you taking the time. I'll let you get out of here, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right, he is Mason Love. Like I said off top, this has been a Garnet Trust interview. Make sure you check out Garnet Trust, support them, garnettrust.com, and support our presenting sponsor, which is Krantz Cooling and Heating at krantzcooling.com. For Mason, I am Wes. We're going to hit this break, and we're going to turn it back over to Tyler Head here on The Game.
All right, everyone, as you heard Wes say there, our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating are the presenting sponsor on Tuesdays and Thursdays of the Garnet Trust Hour. So if you enjoy listening, we appreciate you. If you enjoy hearing from South Carolina student athletes, our friends over at Krantz Cooling and Heating help to make that happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You can check them out at krantzcooling.com. That's Krantz, cooling with a K, krantzcooling.com, or give them a call, 803-672-3224. I've trusted them to come out to my home. They did such a great job. I recommend them to my family, all my friends that live in the Midlands. They can help you with residential or commercial for your business HVAC, whether it's installation, repairs, maintenance. Join the Krantz Club, maintenance plan. Make sure everything's running in tip-top shape. They can do it all for you. That's krantzcooling.com, or give them a call, 803-672-3224. Since 1983, Krantz Cooling and Heating, family owned.
Welcome back in. It is the Garden Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. It's our Ed, Jack Veltri, Chris Clark hopping here with us as we move along here in the hour. You just heard Wes Mitchell's conversation with Mason Love, kicker / punter / maybe holder / potential kickoff guy. The potential to do it all as one of many position battles we're continuing to monitor as the camp rolls along 2 weeks away from the season starting. And he's going to be doing something. We just don't know how much yet.
Yeah, and, Joe DeCamillis, special teams coordinator for South Carolina, and even Shane Beamer, they've both talked about that, like, if Mason is the best at not just kicking, but holding, punting, like, if he's the best in all three, he would be doing it. And
he can't kick and hold at the same time, unfortunately.
Who says?
Well,
true.
Well,
true.
He could be the kickoff guy,
He could.
Like, point is, though, with kicking and punting mainly, forget about the holding. Like, forget I just said that for a second.
Yeah.
But with those two, like, it's something that Shane talked about in the spring. Like, it's not necessarily something they want to do, but it's like, if that is where the situation, like, if that's the best possible outcome here, then by all means they're going to do it. So it'll be interesting. South Carolina's done it before in the past.
Sure.
I think Spencer Lanning's one guy that comes to mind that has done it before. It's not impossible. You do it in high school, you could probably do it now, but we'll see what comes of it.
Yeah, I think you look from pulling together what you hear kind of behind the scenes and then what Beamer and DeCamillis has said. The takeaway I get, guys, is that the sense I get is that they feel, if you're kind of ranking these things, I think punting is probably the thing that they feel the best about overall. And I think Mason Love's a big part of that. When he was recruited here primarily as a punter, but always with the thought in mind that, hey, this is a guy that can kick. I mean, in high school, I think can't remember if it's 54 or 57, but he had a long of that. So he's got a strong leg. Joe DeCamillis told me at Media Day that from a punting standpoint, we were kind of talking about the notion of, hey, how do you decide who to offer a scholarship to out of high school versus trying to develop your walk-on program? And really he said, hey, it's a case-by-case basis. He said, but look, the previous staff decided to give a scholarship to Kai Kroger out of high school, and that was a pretty good take for them. It was a pretty good decision. Hey, if we want to get this guy, we need to offer him a scholarship. It's kind of different when you're recruiting kickers, punters. NIL has changed that as well, to where a lot of guys, if you're recruiting them, it used to just be, hey, you can walk on, or hey, we're going to offer you a scholarship. Now you got kind of some gray area there where you can say, well, we don't have a scholarship, but hey, get you an NIL deal that'll kind of cover your school plus maybe more. And so it's become this interesting thing. But to get back to the actual point, Mason Love is going to do something for this team. It's kind of a question of which and how much. And I think he seems to me pretty clearly to be the leader to go out there and punt against Virginia Tech. If you're a Gamecock fan, you're hoping maybe they don't punt at all.
Sure.
But they're going to punt at some point. He's probably the guy. I get the sense that the bigger question marks are, people don't think about snapping unless there's a problem, but you do lose Hunter Rogers. I think they're still trying to figure that part out in the kicking game in terms of, particularly with place kicking, field goal kicking. That seems to be more of a question mark. Go back to Beamer's comments after the last scrimmage. Hey, we punted the ball. We've punted the ball pretty well. I think Mason Love's a big reason for that, but he wants to get more consistent kicking. And Wes and I were talking about this on the podcast yesterday. It really drives home the point. You never are going to know what you have until you go out there and do it in a game, particularly with guys that have not done it in a game situation and in a pressure situation. Going into 2022, we've talked about this a lot. Mitch Jeter was locked in a very, very, down to the wire, 50-50 basically battle with Alex Herrera, who handled the duties last year. They were charting about the same in practice. They went with Jeter. He went out there, didn't miss a kick. And he wasn't charting at 100% in practice, but that's what he did on game day.
Yeah.
So you don't truly know. I think they would feel better if one guy had separated and one guy had been really, really consistent. Even if that happened, you would still be going into the game in Atlanta saying, all right, you got to do it in a game. So Carolina history shows, probably will have some close games this year. Will there be a game or two that comes down to a big kick? Last year there were.
Sure.
People want to talk about often the The LSU missed kick at the end of that game that could have sent it to overtime. It's not the reason they lost the game, but that could have sent them to overtime. Alabama, a 50-plus yarder that would have put them in a better spot, missed, right? But they don't talk about the kick against Clemson. Ended up being a 3-point difference earlier in that game before Lenoris's 3rd and 16. Herrera made a big kick there. So, you want to feel better about those, and I just don't think we're going to have – they could certainly feel better than they do now, but in some ways you're just not going to know until you go out there and do it.
Well, you go back to what Beamer said last week, and again, we'll hear from him today coming up at 1 o'clock, and maybe we'll have more thoughts on special teams, particularly when it comes to kicking based on scrimmage number 2 from Saturday. But we heard kind of similar things out of him last fall leading up to the start of the season when it was the battle with Alex Herrera and Love as well. I believe was involved in that one a year ago going into the season, and it was talking about wanting a lot more consistency heading into the year. Obviously, Herrera ends up winning the job, and again, gave you a mixed bag of results, kind of ran through there. So seems like a similar situation, but yeah, it's a very unique circumstance to go into 2 straight seasons knowing that your kicker had never actually kicked a field goal in an actual game before, regardless of whoever it's going to be, coming up here, this upcoming season, and obviously Herrera a year ago. So again, for as much as special teams has been a staple, especially during the Beamer era, this year we have more questions than answers at this point, particularly when it comes to kicking.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fact that none of these guys have kicked in a game before. And that's the thing that I remember Max Kelly, the freshman who joined the team in the summer here, competing in this kicker battle, mentioned to me is the fact that when you look at the competition, the thing is that no one has the edge in terms of, I've kicked in games before and I've done this, I've done that. They're all pretty much on equal footing. So, again, we talk about Mason Love being the potential front runner to win these battles and whatnot, but again, he redshirted last year, didn't play at all, so his real experience is come in high school and in practice and like spring game and whatnot. So we'll see who can really take a hold of this. But again, it's probably going to be, like Chris said, we really don't know what South Carolina will have until we get to the games. And even at that point, it might still be a little bit of a learning curve for these guys just because it's different kicking in front of 10,000 people at a high school championship game compared to 50, 60, 80,000 people at Williams-Brice Stadium as the season gets going.
The interesting thing, I just went back and found this. I've been on record that Herrera took too much flack last year. I recognize, the kicks that were missed. They ended up being important because of how the games went.
Sure.
71%, 71.4%. Elliott Fry, who's considered one of the best kickers that they've had at South Carolina, had some really good kickers here. In his junior season in 2015 was 71.4%, and he's considered one of the best. He was 4 for 8 from 40 to 49. Last year, Herrera was 7 for 11. I think the difference is the stage, the moment in some of those. And again, he made some big ones, made a huge one against Clemson. And Herrera did miss one in the 30 to 39 range, but he was a little better than people give him credit for. And honestly, you would like to you wish Herrera had another year going into this.
Sure.
Honestly,
you'd feel a lot more confident.
You'd feel more confident. Yeah. At least he could compete, and maybe he wouldn't win the job this year.
Yeah. Sure,
but he would at least have be one more competitor you can put in that room. Now you're going in, like you said, Jack, like we've been talking about here the whole segment. You're going in. Whoever goes out there and kicks in a game for the first time, it'll be their first.
Yeah.
So that's.
Yeah.
That gives you anxiety if you're a coach.
Yeah. So we'll find out, again, 12 days against Virginia Tech to start the season. Ed Orgeron looking into maybe returning to coaching. He talked about that yesterday. We'll dive into that coming up next to wrap up the hour. It is the Garnet Trust Hour presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating on your Tuesday on the Game.
When it comes to HVAC replacements, AAA Heating and Air has your back. They offer guaranteed financing, 12 months with no payments or interest, and a 15-year warranty on parts and labor. So if you need a new system, they're the best in the Midlands to go to. But here's the question. What if you don't need a replacement? What if you just need a repair? I got some good news for you. AAA Heating and Air has you covered there as well. They offer up to 12-month payment plans on repairs with no credit check for homeowners who need repairs. So all you need is just to have a valid bank account, and they'll be able to handle the rest. So whether you need a replacement or a repair, AAA Heating and Air has unbeatable options for you. Call them today and get your comfort back on track.
Yeah, I think it's time. I'm feeling a little bit. I haven't made the decision totally, but, I got my boys settled, coaching football now, and it's been 4 years since I've been out, and I'm getting the itch again.
Welcome back in. It is the Garnet Trust Tower presented by Krantz Cooling and Heating. It's all right, Jack Beltry and Wes and Chris Clark along with you here on your Tuesday on the Game. That, of course, was the recognizable voice of Ed Orgeron talking yesterday on the Pardon My Take podcast, explaining he's got the itch to get back into coaching again. Of course, he coached that national championship team at LSU, kind of stopped giving a blank after that, and pretty quickly was fired the following year. And, was handed a lot of money to never coach again. Seemed to be content with that, but at the age of 64, he's getting a little restless and maybe wants to find his way back onto a sideline at some point in the future.
Boy, first John Gruden and now Ed Orgeron. Can you imagine these two being in the SEC,
yes,
coaching against each other?
Yes.
I definitely see that.
Think about, Tennessee playing, I don't even know who it would be, Mississippi State or something, and then these two are coaching at those schools or something. That would be honestly wild to really think about.
Would you hire him as a head coach? If you're a Power 4 school, would you hire Ed Orgeron as your head coach?
I think it's 64. Probably not. I mean, look, he's been, again, last time he coached was 2021. And obviously we all remember 2019. Did a great job at LSU and stuff. But times are changing in college athletics. And I don't know necessarily if the game, I don't know if he'd be able to keep up with the way the game has changed, honestly. I mean, it's been a few years, but, you have revenue sharing now and stuff. And I feel like he's one of those guys that is definitely a lifer in football. But as a head coach, again, I'm not sure. It would depend on the situation, I think, more than anything.
Well, and Pete Nakos of On 3, Portal Pete, he has reported that Edo is not opposed to just taking a position coach job. So, if you're looking for a D-line coach with a ton of experience who, has had success recruiting in the past, has been at some marquee programs, I could see a lot of head coaches pulling the trigger on that if interested.
That seems to be more in line that in analyst role, as we talk about, Jeff Collins getting hired here a few weeks back, where you're not having to take on the same demands as being a head coach. And obviously, again, you get to being a head coach by being a really good position coach, really good coordinator, which Ed Orgeron was all the thing. I'd trust him, to be a D-line coach or defense coordinator or something along those lines. I don't know if I'd want to put my program entirely in his hands, which I don't think is something that he's probably would be going for anyway.
No, I kind of look at this similar to look at Warren Sapp at Colorado. The guy that had been out of the game for a little bit, but then he comes to Colorado, and you just hear the way he talks in interviews and stuff. And he's like, I didn't realize how much I missed the game and how much I like being involved. And I think I could see Ed Orgeron kind of being in the same role. Like, I don't see him being a head coach at a big Power 4 school ever again. I think more so we're talking about a guy that is an assistant on staff, like you said, like a Jeff Collins or just some positional coach aspect, like at Sean Elliott now. He's a guy that was doing just fine at Georgia State, but then he decides to come back to South Carolina, be closer to home, and he's being a tight ends coach, and he seems to really love it. So I think we could kind of see something in a similar vein to what these other guys have done, being assistants, and they're perfectly happy with it.
I could see, I think most guys, there are some coaches that are perfectly content to, be a lifelong position coach, which Ed Orgeron has been both. He's been a head coach at, 3 different schools if you count his 1 year there at Southern Cal. He went 6-2. Ole Miss and obviously LSU. And I think for him, maybe not an immediate jump to like a P4 school again. There'll probably be some schools that are a little hesitant for that, to do that. I don't think it's far-fetched that there could be an outlier Power 4 school out there. They could say, yeah, we want to hire this guy. I mean, you mentioned Colorado. Colorado said, we're going to hire Deion Sanders. He had interviewed at some other places. I think Arkansas was one that was mentioned. Nobody had pulled the trigger until Colorado did. It just takes the one. Now, is it more likely that, let's say, a Louisiana Tech? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Sonny Comby, 11-26 in 3 seasons. You got the former LSU coach who has ties to that area, plenty of them. If it doesn't go well this year for Louisiana Tech, would they say, shoot, we would take Ed Orgeron. We're sitting here, a group of 5 school.
Sure.
Would he be interested in that? Maybe so, because he might say, and I don't know Ed Orgeron. I've met him once, and it was exactly what you would expect.
A story?
Yes. Went to Jadeveon Clowney's school.
Okay.
When he was getting recruited, and Edo was on staff at Southern Cal, came all the way out to recruit him, and I heard the voice from the field house.
Yeah.
And he was talking about Slim Jims and Red Bull. I mean, it was he is exactly. That is not an act.
You could understand him?
You kind of, yeah.
Like you got Slim Jims and Red Bull out of what he said?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They're like, did you find anywhere good to eat? He's like, nah, Slim Jim, Red Bull. I'm good.
It's very on brand.
Yeah,
sounds about right.
I was like, that's perfect. But, I could see, and would he be interested in that, whether it's, hey, I'm getting another opportunity. I've got the itch. I'll go take this job. I can turn this thing around. And then, obviously, if you do well there, that's a bit of career rehab. It doesn't have to be LA Tech. Pick your group of 5 schools, something like that. I could see that.
Yeah. No, I'd love to have him back in college football. He was always fun to follow, and that 2019 team, maybe one of the best ever. Perfect storm of talent.
He's got that going for him. National championship winning head coach Ed Orgeron.
Hey, if he became a head coach, that'd add another one back to our list.
Exactly.
We talked about earlier.
Let's get him on board then.
We'll see what happens. Coming up next, Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs as your Tuesday rolls along here on the game.
All right, everyone, as we close out the Garnet Trust Hour and roll into the Gamecock Central Takeover, let's tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media, Michael, Nathan, the entire team there. Professional, local, reliable, super knowledgeable. I've had them out to my home. So is Wes. They can do anything that you may need from an AV or tech standpoint at your home or your business, whether it's something as simple as just mounting a television, taking care of some of those projects that you don't want to do. If you look around and you're like, I have wires running absolutely everywhere, at my home. They can clean those up for you. They can make your home into a complete smart home where you can control your lights, devices, thermostats, everything at the touch of a button. The guys over at Integrated Media are a true one-stop shop for all your AV needs, anything that you may need. Integrated Media Columbia on Instagram and Facebook for examples of their past work. IntegratedMediaInc.com, or give them a call, 803-948-8327.
$11 o'clock on your Tuesday morning. Welcome in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler Westler and Chris along with you here on the game. Wes, we enjoyed your sit down there with Mason Love in the last hour.
How'd
good
he do?
insight. He was good. You know what's really funny is, and you talked to him about the former sports that he played, and he mentioned he wrestled at one point. I knew that by looking at his picture on the website. I never read anything about him wrestling, but I just looked at him and I could tell he had done that at some point in his life. There's a
What gives it away?
The wrestler look?
There's just a look, man.
Okay.
Wrestlers have a look about them that when I saw his picture, I'm like, he's got that look. I know at some point in his life he has wrestled, and I was proven right.
That is hilarious. Was I right that he did not mention soccer?
I don't recall him mentioning that.
Yeah. You would have thought.
You would think, yeah. I mean, that's typically the story for most kickers these days. Soccer at some point, if not, really, really great soccer players in high school, but apparently not the case.
Anything else with Mason that caught y'all's attention?
Well, we were talking about in the last hour, we don't know what job he's going to do exactly, but he seems to be up for how much they're ever going to ask him to do this year, kicking, punting, kickoffs, holding, maybe doing all of it. We can't hold and kick at the same time, but you know what I mean.
According to Jack, you can't.
According to Jack, you can't. Could be a first. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this. When were we talking about this? Oh, podcast yesterday.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
GC Live. I feel like, and you know what, guys, I do those interviews. I really, the question I really want to ask is, hey, are you starting? But, it's a little bit, for one, you probably don't get to do those interviews anymore if there are certain things the staff obviously wants to handle their way and didn't want to put Mason in that spot. But the thing to me that I think we started to learn is, like, I think Mason's going to be your punter. Like,
yeah.
He clearly, I mean, he was booming the ball in the spring game. All you heard about all spring is he looked the part. Beamer, without saying Mason Love, said in the last press conference, hey, the punting has been great. I feel like that's something we've heard maybe quite a bit of. It feels, even like Joe D has been pretty just transparent. Hey, Nick Harbor entered camp as the leader at kickoff return. Jalen Kilgore entered camp as the leader at punt return. So they were at least kind of, all right, there's somebody for everybody else to strive towards beating. I feel like place kicker, we really have not heard kind of either officially or unofficially, behind the scenes, not behind the scenes of, hey, this is probably the guy. And, to me, I don't want to say that is concerning at this point, but I think it is worth mentioning at this point. And also, but the other end of that, guys, is that we talked about this too. If you could hit all your kicks in practice, it really, like, you can't solve that position truly 100% in practice. You really don't know until you go do it in front of 80,000 people with the ESPN cameras on you. And, Mitch Jeter and Alex Herrera went down to the final week. Mitch won the job, and then he didn't miss a single field goal the entire season.
So either, I guess, the end of this week or beginning of next week, we'll get our depth chart for game number 1. Do we see an or at kicker, or do we have a definitive, like, this guy's definitely kicking, or do we go or and have to wonder who's going to trot out there for the first one against VT?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I very easily could see there being an or there. And, I think in terms of, the depth chart, which typically the last few years it has come out on that Monday of game week, if I remember correctly, there are a lot of orders on there. And, I imagine now Beamer, for the most part, does put out an accurate depth chart as opposed to just kind of using it to not tell us anything.
Sure.
And so I tend to think if it's truly a thing where they're going to use 2 kickers at the beginning of the year potentially, then yeah, I think there will be some ors on there. I think on the other hand, if they kind of have it solidified with one guy, then yeah, it'll just be that one guy. But typically when they have ors, both people or the 3 people that are listed as the or end up playing in that game, it seems like.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating to think about all the unknowns going in, and as a coach, that gives you, and as a fan, I would think, that gives you some anxiety and some heartburn. But, I do always go back to that Jeter-Herrera battle. And from what I recall, Jeter was charting a little bit better in practice in terms of made kicks. He was set. Pete Limbo was there at the time, said that he had the stronger leg. Herrera was more accurate on his kickoff placement, which is, that's another kind of data point, like in the spring and then going into the preseason. And then, they ultimately go with Jeter. I remember I just went back and looked at one of our old stories too. Limbo had pointed out, because you remember these guys were looking to replace Parker White.
Yeah,
And
it was not as high of a percentage as Parker.
It was not.
Yeah.
You know, Parker was at 90% or so charting in practices, and neither of those guys had gotten there. Well, lo and behold, you plug in Jeter, he makes more than 90%. He actually makes 100% during the season, including, you know, some pressure situations. Wes, I also, we talked about this in the last hour, but I'm going to throw this at you. So you and I talk a lot about how Herrera took, I think, too much flack last year. Understanding that there were a couple kicks that could have, you know, didn't win or lose a game, but certainly you would have loved to make. He hit 71.4% of his kicks. And Elliott Fry, not his last season, but the season before as a junior, Elliott Fry, who's considered a really good kicker here, hit 71.4% of his kicks. Pretty interesting stat, I thought.
Yep, absolutely. And again, we'll find out what exactly that kicking situation looks like maybe by the depth chart next week, or if nothing else, 12 days from now when they do play Virginia Tech. Speaking of 12 days, we're down to our 12 days until kickoff trivia question. West still leading by a full point right now, 23.5 to 22.5, as we're getting down to the last couple days here. With 12 days to go, we go to the legendary Tommy Suggs, who you can hear now on the Gamecocks radio network. We're the number 12 from 1968 to 1970 as the starting quarterback for the Gamecocks. Question today is, what was his record against Clemson as a starting quarterback?
Hey, let me jump in real quick. So I got a recommendation on our Firehouse Subs, my personal Firehouse Subs text line from Chip Chase, who's a member, shout out Chip, of Gamecock Central and listens to us all the time. He said, hey, you guys, if you both have your idea, you know what happened yesterday? We're like, one of us will say the answer, and we're like, we think that's right. I think that's right, whatever. And you kind of have to show your hand. He said we should write them down.
Okay.
And then put them up.
Do you want to do that?
Unless you don't have a... What do you mean? What was his record against? You mean wins and losses?
Wins and losses against Clemson. 3 games.
Do we have anything to write down with?
He started 3 games against them.
Do we have anything to write down with? Or so is it who says it first, or is it who?
You can both text it to me. How about that? Individually, text me your answer.
Okay.
And then we can go from there. If it's
so, the question is: Tommy Suggs played 3 games against Clemson.
Yes,
what was his
record against Clemson from 1968 to 1970?
Okay, I sent you my answer.
Okay,
from my personal, of course, my Firehouse Subs.
Yeah, don't put it in the group. Don't put it in the group chat.
Would defeat the purpose.
Yeah, that would.
Okay, well, we have both right answers. The correct answer is 3-0.
Yeah,
they defeated Clemson from 1968 to 1970. 1968, they won 7-3. 69, they won 27-13, and 70, they won 38-32. So, yeah, 3-0 against the team from the upstate, which helped him become the Gamecock legend that he is.
We need to get Tommy back on again.
That'd be great.
We had him.
Yeah, that was fun.
When was that?
Was that before the bowl game last year?
I think so.
Yeah.
And after Clemson game.
First Carolina quarterback to throw for 300 yards in a game, and one of those was against Clemson, actually. So
also set the initial record for most passing touchdowns in a game with 5.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Suggs loves beating Clemson. Like you could tell,
clearly.
He beat him as a player, and you just think about that game last year and how excited he was.
Oh yeah,
man. He loves when the Gamecocks win, but he loves a good Clemson win.
He the energy that he adds, like the Rocket Sanders touchdown last year. Hell no, we just scored, phenomenal.
Yeah, I love it.
We'll effort that.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see if we can get him on before game number 1 and get his insight on this team and what he thinks of Lenore Sellers, because I got to imagine, look, he's seen a lot of quarterbacks come through this Carolina system. I imagine Lenore Sellers, if it's not already number 1, it's got to be towards the top of the list.
Yeah, I feel like he talked. I'm sure we asked him about Lenore's then, so I guess the obvious next question is just, what is the next step for Lenore Sellers in his eyes? I know a lot of people have had opinions on that throughout the offseason. I'm sure he's probably been out there taking in some practice as well. I think he has the super secret handshake that gets you in that, the regular local media does not have. So we'll have to, again, effort that.
Yeah, we'll try and get that maybe before the game start. Coming up the end of in the next week, we'll dive into some intel from scrimmage over the weekend, which we'll hear from Beamer talk about later on today at 1 o'clock as camp rolls on. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on your Tuesday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West Chris along with you here on your Tuesday on the game. And as we'll have every Tuesday during the season, Coach Beamer speaking today at 1 o'clock, which you can listen to during the halftime show with myself and Scott Hamilton coming up today. And he will talk plenty about what happened in the scrimmage over the weekend, scrimmage number 2, as we near the start of the season, 12 days away from Virginia Tech. And you guys got some insight into what went down in that scrimmage over the weekend. And we'll touch on some of those notes we didn't have time to get to yesterday because we were talking with, of course, Debo Williams. And one thing that you guys noted on is sounds like the offense under Mike Shula continuing to move the ball well. Don't know if we have any specifics as far as statistics from that, like Beamer gave out last week just yet. Hope we'll get some more of those coming up later on today. But, again, good to hear that the offense is seemingly moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it does seem that way after 2 scrimmages. And we all know that second scrimmage is pretty important. They're all important. Every practice is important. Every scrimmage is the closest thing you can get to a game since we don't get to have preseason games against another opponent, which we should. Shane Beamer said that the other day, actually. Again, he's been a long-time opponent. But I think we're all, I'll admit we didn't hear quite as much from this one as the last one. But I do think what we heard was encouraging for the offense once again. What you don't want to hear is, okay, you're heading into game 1. You've got a newish, and only say that because he was on staff last year, and Mike Shula obviously was very involved with Lenore Sellers, was involved with the offense. But it is going to be a new guy calling the plays. There's going to be some changes structurally to the offense, things of that nature. You didn't want to hear, man, there were tons of drops. Gosh, there were a bunch of procedural penalties. They looked discombobulated. They turned the football over a bunch of times. You didn't really hear that. We do know there were no turnovers this time because they posted one of them on social media.
There was at least a
turnover. But you did hear that the offense, from what we've picked up, moved the ball well again. And sure, you got to think about on the other side, okay, well, what's that mean for the defense? But I think you can just generally look, this team's identity, I think we think going in, there are more questions around special teams and the defensive side of the ball than on offense. You get the sense that this offense, if this team is ultimately going to reach some of its goals, have a successful season, however you define that, is going to have to be carried more by 16 in that offense. And I think what we've heard early on through these first couple scrimmages probably gives you some encouragement that they have the goods to potentially do that.
Yeah, and I think, where are your expectations in terms of comparatively to other South Carolina teams? Like, I feel like just from an offensive standpoint, you got to feel probably as good as you have about the potential kind of this unit going into the year. I would say in quite some time. Running back obviously is kind of I don't want to say caveat because I still do think there's talent in that room without Faison. But I think if you add Faison to that mix and he's there and he's playing, all of a sudden, it's a potentially dynamic room. And you don't really quite feel that loss of Rocket Sanders quite as much, if any, when you look at I believe, upgrades around that spot. And, it could be upgrades in terms of new personnel, but in a lot of cases, what I mean is upgrades in the fact of you got a lot of guys who are going into another year. You've added experience. You expect Sellers to take a step forward. I still maintain nobody has talked about Michael Smith enough at tight end. I heard that Brady Hunt has quietly had a really good camp as well. So I think you have a pretty deep but also talented tight end room. We've talked about wide receivers, ad nauseum, I feel like, at this point. So I just think you got a lot of weapons there. They've gone into many years where there's just a lot of questions on offense, and I don't really know that you have that this year. And, I would maybe, even though it is early, typically defense is ahead of offense. I would be a little bit concerned if the offense wasn't already playing fairly well,
Sure. Yeah, and mentioning wide receivers there, another note of how well Donovan Murphy seems to be performing. Again, the guy that has only been on campus for a short time, but making an impact pretty quickly. Kind of reinforcing everything that you guys have talked about from his time in high school through campus and all those kind of things, that he has the ability to maybe be that guy if it's only going to be one freshman to come in, maybe him or Brian Rowe coming in and really making an impact on offense in year number one. And again, what we've heard out of camp so far is backing that up.
Did we talk about the little Chris Doering visit to campus on this show?
I don't
yesterday?
believe so.
Nope. Yeah, so he was on campus, I guess, a couple weeks ago, and then did an appearance, Locked On Gamecocks podcast, and he said, "Hey, Rowe and Murph are the guys that you hear about when you're on campus, the guys that stand out to him at the wide receiver position," which I just always like that additional layer of confirmation when other guys come in. And, that's what we've been hearing. If he'd heard two completely different guys, your ears perk up like, all right, what's going on here? But when somebody kind of on the outside comes in and says the same thing, compared Brian Rowe to a Heisman winner in Devontae Smith, and basically said that's his play style.
Yep.
If he is, if his play style is anything close to that, then you're talking about adding a guy to your room that can really help you just elevate the upside of what that room is, I think. And, he basically admitted something we've talked about. He admitted, hey, I didn't know what Carolina had at receiver. He said, I completely changed my thoughts on what this program is going to be this season based on going and watching them practice. And also made the point, hey, I know guys in his position, SEC Network analyst, he said, I know less about teams these days going into a season than I ever have before. And so I think there's a really weird just mix of like, hey, I think there's a lot to like about this South Carolina team offensively and defensively. I think there's still a lot of unknowns, though, in terms of all these teams that they're going to play. I've been in like a national college football consumption mode the last 24 hours. I've just been listening to podcasts at all times, and there's a few things that have sort of stood out to me. One, we heard Brett, Pick Six Previews, talk about it. Not that Carolina plays Florida. Where's all this Florida buzz coming from in the SEC? Brett, much like some other folks, way higher on Oklahoma. So many people are so high on Oklahoma now that it's not even like an outlier anymore. Like you can't say that you're higher than everybody when now everybody is magically high on Oklahoma. I don't think people are as high as they should be on Alabama. And that team is on South Carolina's schedule, as is Oklahoma. So as we dial into 12 days away, are there still some things we're learning about South Carolina? Of course. I'm in the mode now of, all right, if we think we know what's going on here, how does that factor into the people you got to go play?
Yeah, I'm puzzled by the Alabama, and I think Brett was high on them, right? I mean, because of, I think he mentioned they had more 5-stars on their 2-deep than anybody. What, 12?
Yeah.
I think he had, I think he has them in the SEC title game.
Yes, it was Alabama and Texas. Yeah, he said a lot of people have Georgia. Probably can't go wrong with any of those picks. They don't seem insane.
He also had a great dig at the ACC that I think he said
more than the ACC combined.
Yeah, the 12 5-stars is more than the entire ACC combined.
Yeah.
Clemson probably has almost all of them throughout the ACC.
Florida State may have one or two.
Yeah,
that's probably.
I mean, it's so I do think that's fascinating, right? Because you've got Kalen DeBoer, who right before he got to Alabama had taken a team to the playoff. Then he gets there. It's at Alabama. They're still loaded with talent, and they have a down year basically
by their standards.
Not a bad year. They almost made the playoff, but they didn't make it, and so that's a bad year. And now it's like some people have just they're just cooked, Not They're not here anymore. So, and I mean, Brett brought this up too. Got their OC back. Got the band back together with Ryan Grubb, who was with DeBoer at Washington and is widely regarded to be pretty darn good. Now but the other thing is, Wes, you talk about this a lot. They got a quarterback question. I mean, they've named a starter, but they're breaking in a new quarterback. So is Ohio State. So is Texas, even though it's Arch Manning.
Yep.
Still a new quarterback. Still going to be the guy for the entire year. The good news for those teams is they got a lot of talent around those guys, but still a question mark. So, yeah, I think, we do have to – that's what you've got to do is when you're in the Gamecock bubble, or you can apply this to any school. If you're at Alabama, if you're at Oklahoma, you get so focused on, man, this area looks way better than last year. That's great. You need that. But what about the teams that you got to go out there and play every single week? They're taking the entire offseason to try to get better too. And Gamecocks once again have, a bear of a schedule, I think.
Couple notes there from scrimmage number 2 from over the weekend. We'll hear from Coach Beamer at 1 o'clock today and get more thoughts and insight into that as, again, we get closer to the start of the season, only 12 days away from Virginia Tech. You guys last week got to sit down with the Board of Trustees Chairman and Thad Westbrook. You guys released that podcast. We'll dive into a little bit of what he had to say, talk about the state of South Carolina athletics as well, coming up next as the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs rolls along on your Tuesday of the game. Welcome back in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West Chris along with you here on your Tuesday on the Game. Reminder, this Friday, it's the Game Summer Golf Classic sponsored by Krager Showrooms over at Chartward Golf Club in West Columbia. We're being told there's only one spot left. If you want to take part in it, give Chartward a call at 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up. Only $400 for a team. And we hope to see you out there again Friday for the Game Summer Golf Classic sponsored by Krager Showrooms. Last week, you guys got a chance to sit down with Thad Westbrook, who's the Board of Trustees chairman for Carolina Athletics, and that you guys released that interview yesterday, which you can find on the Gamecock Central YouTube channel, about an hour long.
That's where we were when we couldn't come in.
I put 2 and 2 together on that one and kind of figured that was the case. Nice backdrop, by the way, overlooking the stadium and all that kind of stuff. So real good there. And guys, you guys talked to him for about an hour about a number of things, NIL, Jeremiah Donati, obviously the way the program's going when it comes to the renovations and stuff like that, but a lot of good insight on to more of the intimate details of what's going on with the Athletics as of right now.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there. I was interested to hear a little bit more from his perspective about the land around the stadium and Williams-Brice, and so we know now what the number he gave, I think, was $350 million to the stadium, kind of dove into some of that, and then just an update on the land situation. And so I think, the entertainment district around South Carolina, I think, has not moved as fast as either some people thought or even hoped. When you hear that announced, you might get the idea of this is coming soon. But it's not that easy. It takes a long time, and maybe some of those pieces have moved a little bit more slowly. But I think the way you could put it, Wes, is it is moving. Right now, there's bidders, according to Thad Westbrook, that have been interviewed. From there, the university's going to select a master developer, presumably. I'm assuming this, somebody who has experience doing these things. A lot of NFL
You haven't
teams.
put in your bid, is what you're saying?
I have not put in my bid. I wouldn't be completely clueless.
It has always been your dream to work with that heavy machinery, though.
Yes, it has been. But, I think it's moving, and so I don't think we could really even get a timeline on it. Like, when will we see some of this stuff? We really don't have a great answer on that, but it's getting, I think, closer and closer to where, you're going to see this entertainment district that really will be pretty unique among college athletics. I mean, Thad brought up that Tennessee has looked into doing something like this down by the river, but most schools literally can't do this because they're landlocked because their stadium's on campus. I mean, there's a lot of discussion, hey, I wish South Carolina had an on-campus stadium. Yes, that would be cool. You also couldn't do this if you had that. And so when you start thinking about all the revenue that you can bring in for the city of Columbia, but of course for the university, for athletics, from having condos and hotels and restaurants and all sorts of entertainment in this district is pretty exciting to think about. So it does continue to move forward.
Yeah, and one point I wanted to make too, Chris, that $350 million number for Williams-Brice originally, and I don't know if this was ever officially announced as this, but at least internally, from what I had heard, originally there was talk of around a $250 million renovation. And from what the way it was described to me, and this is outside the scope of the Thad interview here, but elsewhere, is that extra $100 million is essentially the difference between doing, what maybe needs to be done, and then tacking on all the extra bells and whistles of what they want to do. And a lot of that is, and I don't think people have maybe, I think some people kind of roll their eyes at this. Maybe they still do when I'm about to say it, but they really do want to enhance the overall fan experience as well. And people say, well, no, it's about the big donors. It's about the suites. It's about additional revenue from millionaires. And, yeah, that is part of it. They have said from day one, hey, there are not enough suites at Williams-Brice Stadium. Vanderbilt now has more. Vanderbilt now has more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just that sentence is an embarrassment. So there's a reason why they are doing that, and it's very valid. But they want for this also to be something where there are kind of touch points for every fan that's going to the stadium. Some of that is, hey, 2 new video boards. Some of that is going to be, in certain areas of the stadium, increased concourse size, which is a massive, massive thing that maybe you just say, well, what does that matter? Trust me, you will be able to tell. And a lot of that is going to be having a better concessions and bathroom experience at Williams-Brice. So I think people will ultimately be super happy with this thing in the end. And, you know, Thad talked about some of the details with it. There are other details that are already out there. There are details that I believe will probably continue to trickle out just in terms of getting some updates on, like we had some concepts come out. But the closer you get to, I think, actually starting the renovations, we'll maybe get a little bit more idea of, hey, this got tweaked a little bit. This got changed a little bit. They're going to move the visitors' locker room, which is that's got to be a massive undertaking, I would think.
Yeah, moving the loading docks, moving the visitor locker room. Well, you know, and I was thinking about it as I was looking through some of the things he talked about to us. And
you have that in front of you, by the way?
I do.
Okay.
What, the transcript? Like the interview?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're thinking about if you could boil it down to maybe the 3 main things that somebody who's not sitting in premium seating, you know, just most of the people in the stadium, that they're going to be concerned about and have rightfully brought up, I mean, we could say complaints, and that's completely valid, about are, and you mentioned them, like room, just generally, like personal space, bathrooms, and concessions. And all 3 of those are going to be hit here. I mean, literally expanding the concourses. And Thad Westbrook said particularly on the west side of the stadium, they're going to expand them. So there's just, frankly, more room. You know, any of us who have ever been to a game, and this isn't just at Williams-Brice, it's anywhere. I mean, I was at Lumen Field in Seattle this year, and during breaks, it got completely packed in there where you can barely move.
Yep.
So widening the concourses, giving more room there. Restrooms being addressed. Interestingly, Wes, he said particularly women's bathrooms are going to be addressed. And then additional points of sale for concessions. So we all know those lines, they get pretty long. They move slowly. Additional spots that you can go get various concessions, drinks, snacks, whatever, meals. They're putting in a full-service kitchen, you know, at somewhere in the stadium that's going to be able to service some of those different points of sale and concessions. I think all those things can just enhance the experience. Because you're right, Wes, when this comes out, a lot of people say, okay, it kind of leads with premium seating and that revenue. You do need that, especially when you're woefully behind others, including Vanderbilt at that. But people want to hear, okay, what is the kind of quote-unquote common fan experience, whether it's a single game, a season ticket holder that's not in premium seating. These changes are going to address those too.
He also talked as well about the fresh perspective, as he put it, that Jeremiah Donati is bringing to the table as the athletic director. I've seen a lot of things obviously be moved and put in place in his short time here as, again, he takes over for this new era and next chapter of what's going to be South Carolina athletics, as well as all these projects that are going to be going on in and around the stadium too.
Yeah, and I think my biggest takeaway about Donati and kind of his approach so far has been we are actually, I think, now that he's been on the job for, I guess, 8.5 months or so, we're starting to see a little bit of what his approach is going to be. Like, I think you would say he was not the guy that just said, hey, I'm going to come in and I'm going to have my bulldozer ready and I'm going to start firing people. I'm going to start, I'm going to put my mark on this place, even if I don't need to put my mark on the place. And I think he's been very much in information gathering mode, and let's see where things are. Let's see what's working. Let's see what's not working. Let's see what's maybe somewhere in the middle of that. How do we do things at TCU? And, now we're starting to see his stamp on the place a little bit. And, if you listen to some of the media appearances he has done, he ultimately, if you just let him talk, he will ultimately almost always get back to this Williams-Brice Stadium project. Like, I think that's top of mind from a big picture standpoint. He's going to have his chance to put his stamp on the apparel contract, that will be coming up soon, and certainly other aspects of the athletic department as his career here progresses.
We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris on your Tuesday on the game.
Hey, what's going on? To my Irma Little League team that is advancing in the Little League World Series. You all make us so proud. Like, we are behind you 100%. We need you to keep going, keep fighting the way that we do here in South Carolina. Congratulations so far, but we're not done yet.
Welcome back in Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs, Tower West Coast, wrapping up the hour here on your Tuesday on the Game. Don Staley delivering a message to Irma's Little League team yesterday before they took on Nevada in the winner's bracket out there in Williamsport. Unfortunately, as great of a game as they played, and Joe Giletti pitched 6 no-hit innings until he reached his pitch limit. Unfortunately, they did fall to Nevada in the 7th inning there, 1-0. That has them playing in the loser's bracket now, coming up today at 3 o'clock as they take on Hawaii.
Man, this Giulietti kid, holy cow. Has he given up a hit yet? I don't think he has.
No hits.
No, I don't think so.
And so we're
a grand slam the other day.
We're into 9 innings combined of work out here, and he's not giving up a hit. He is special. Man, I feel like when it gets to this level, every team kind of has a dog, a dude. Like, they've got an ace, and they are borderline unhittable. And this was a battle of both aces. And I just felt for Irmo that this is the way it ended. Of course, for those that didn't see it, just the fact they were the away team hurt them here, man, because you're going into both of those extra innings. If you don't score in the top, and then you're dealing with, they do have the ghost runner rule in Little League where they just put the guy on second. There is so much pressure on you to execute. And it looked like Irmo was going to wiggle out the second time, too. Was Ware playing shortstop?
Yeah.
Yep. On that play? Yeah. They had a fantastic heads-up play to basically catch the runner at second, leaving a little too early, anticipating the throw to first on a ground ball, and cut him down. And I was like, man, they're going to get out of it. They're going to force an, I guess, 8th inning at that point, and or 9th inning, and just could not. But, man. Oh, yeah, it was in 7 innings, 8 innings, but.
Yeah,
it was
7 or 8.
It was in 7.
7, okay.
Yeah.
Bottom 7th, yep.
They played great, though. Like, yeah. I just, neither side deserved to lose this game. And, but when you make it this far, the competition is just incredibly tough.
Yeah, if they didn't have the 85 pitch limit, it would have been fascinating to see.
Yep.
Like, just how they'd still be out there. Giletti and what was his face from Nevada? Garrett Gallegos.
But he had a pretty darn good game, too.
Yeah, he had a phenomenal. I mean, he gave up like 4 hits. What a terrible, but he gave up no runs, had to come out. And those two might still be pitching if we'd let them right
they
now.
Were mowing people
0-0.
I was kind of wondering, I was like, how long can they go with this? 'Cause somebody's got to score eventually.
Well, you had to just get through the 2 studs, basically. I don't know, man. I felt I obviously have only picked up on Irmo Little League as of a week ago, and I was like, my stomach hurt for those guys a little bit. Like, it was just. Can you imagine at that level though, like the amount of pressure you're under?
No doubt. I imagine it was hard to go to sleep last night for them, and obviously having to get set to play today against Hawaii, and Hawaii is always going to be good in the Little League World Series. Try and keep your hopes alive, and you got to win 3 games in the next 3 days to get yourself to the weekend.
Yeah, and the other thing with I think the 85 pitch limit, I think Giletti can't pitch again for 4 days.
I think that's right.
So they won't have him available. He can hit, which he's
pretty good
also pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, this is obviously maybe even to a different level, but do y'all remember though, like growing up, everybody faced a version of those 2 pitchers. You know what I'm saying? Like you faced the guy that, let's be honest, like just kind of grew up a little bit before everybody else and is throwing, I think they said, he's throwing 75 So at one point, they were saying, hey, this is equivalent to like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. The kid the other day threw freaking 82 miles an hour.
That's 107, I think.
Yeah, which I don't even think – there's no way that's healthy on that kid's arm, but that's the old person in me.
TJ at 14.
Yeah, there's no way that's healthy. But you literally are just – like everybody had that moment if you played baseball growing up where you were facing the guy who it looked like – Randy Johnson was throwing to you. And you're just up there trying to get ready for it. And you can barely see the thing. And then these two guys are out there throwing breaking balls, too, on top of that. So you can't just gear up for the fastball. That one kid for Nevada, he had an absolute war at the plate with Giuletti and fouled off like 10-plus pitches. That was fun. I mean, these kids are competing, they're competitors. It's a very high level of baseball for these guys to be 12 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, coming up later on today at 3 o'clock, taking on Hawaii to try and keep hopes alive. And we're obviously going to keep an eye on them, and hopefully they can keep this going up there in Williamsport, and we'll follow that as that goes along. And Coach Beamer talking today at 1 o'clock. We'll have that for you on the post-game show, which is coming up next with myself and Scott Hamilton from the Post and Courier. It's been the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on the Game.